So now I'm asking you to explain to me, what does the Quran say when it says that Allah is appreciative? What does it mean? Don't ask another question. Don't talk about the Bible. Answer the question. We'll come to the Bible next. But yes, we will. You know I will. You know I will. I don't need to run away from you. I got your beat. So answer the question, bro, about your Quran, and then we'll talk about the Bible. What does it mean?
My answer is what it was before.
Which is?
God is appreciative, i.e. he is happy with you. When he is happy, it is not like our happiness. He has his own happiness because he is God.
Right.
God, and it's the same thing with yours. When your God was angry, his anger isn't like our anger, is it? When he flooded the earth when Noah was inside of the ark, his anger is not like our anger. It's godly anger. It's God. He's the one who knows. I'm a Muslim.
Shall I reply?
Yes or no? Yes, please.
Okay. Right. So all you did is replace one gobbledygook to...
I did answer it.
No, you didn't. Let me reply.
Sorry, I did.
Let me reply. I didn't interrupt you.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
All you did is replace one gobbledygook with another gobbledygook. You said appreciative means happy. Okay. But when I ask you what happy means, when the Quran says that Allah is not like anything in his creation, you're then going to tell me that happiness is not like our happiness. So now we've got the same problem again, but now we've just swapped the word appreciative for happy.
No,
because if you are truly saying that appreciative in the Quran, when it says Allah is appreciative, is equal to happiness for human beings, then there you go. He's not saying that.
Right.
So hold on one second. Let me finish. Because you're tying yourself in knots because your Quran ties you in knots. The Quran states on one hand, Allah is not like anything he has created.
I agree with that.
But then it uses statements that imply certain meanings within created sense. Let me finish. And that is why you're in a bind. Because you said that it's happiness. So if by happiness you mean what I experience as happiness, then that means Allah is like his creation. But you'll say, no, that's not true. So now we're back to, well, what does happiness mean? We haven't actually solved the problem. We've just swapped one word out for another word. Now you said something about the Bible, right? You said something about the Bible. Now, the thing is, as a Christian, I believe that the Bible was written by men inspired by the Spirit of God. So your Quran, which is supposedly the literal word of God, is now no better than man's written words. No better than man's written words, right? The scriptures are clear. There is no shadow of changing in God. That means that no shadow of changing in God. That's what it means. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? No shadow of changing. It means that God is not moved. He does not move from a state of non-appreciation to appreciation.
So what happened with Jesus?
But in your Quran there is appreciation. So Allah has transitioned. Allah has changed. So, right, do you want to try to reply? And please don't complain when I interrupt you, because you've been interrupting me constantly.
I'm fine.
Great, good. You won't complain when I interrupt you. Great, okay.
Right. Jesus, you said now that God doesn't change his moods.
Yeah, he took on a humanity.
Perfect.
There you go.
So God changed, yes or no?
No,
He changed his moods.
no, because the doctrine of the incarnation says that there is no change of the divinity. He simply creates a humanity and he fills it.
So did he change
No.
when he went from God to Jesus?
No, he didn't.
Oh, so
It literally in the
God
council.
stayed the same when he went from God
you know,
to Jesus.
you see, this is the point. You come out with these Dawaganda scripts, but you've never read the Council of Ephesus. What does the Council of Ephesus say about this very question? See, that's the point.
Brother, I'm 20.
You're repeating comments that you hear in the park, but you've never addressed once
I'm not repeating comments. Though.
what it says in the Council of
just
Ephesus. Listen, I'm educating you. The only thing that can happen to you is you become more educated. It says, right, the writings of our teachers from Alexandria teachers, that when Christ takes onto himself a humanity, the divinity is not changed into another substance. The divinity is not confused with the humanity. It does not change the humanity, and it does not become some alternate. There is no change.
That makes no sense.
That's what Christians. There is no change. We
that
don't.
makes no
No,
sense.
what it
You're
means is
believing
this.
in a contradiction.
What we're saying is the
saying
divinity
there's no
does not
change when-
become humanity. You're saying the divinity becomes humanity. We're not saying the same statement.
Sure.
Did you get that?
Sure.
Did you hear that?
Sure, yes.
We're not saying the
Perfect.
same
Allow me
statement.
to respond now.
Okay.
You're telling me that God went from God to a human form, which sure he was part godly, blah blah blah.
No, I said exactly the opposite of that.
What?
I said the
Is it-
divinity does not become a human. I didn't say the divinity becomes a
was
human.
Jesus of God or not?
Right, so let me answer that. Yeah, let me answer that. So what happens at the incarnation, and I noticed that you're running away from the problem in the Quran, but what happens at the incarnation, and then we'll come back to the Quran, is that God creates a humanity over there, right? And then he fills it with himself.
Wow.
The humanity is not the divinity. The divinity doesn't move into a humanity.
So where is
It is simply the person, that instantiation, that I am,
God fills.
fills the humanity. Now let's come back to the Quran.
That makes no sense.
No. Let's come back to the Quran.
You've said a-
Why are you running
you've
from the
said something
question
that makes no
about the
sense.
mean? What
You-
does happy
you've
mean?
said that
You
Jesus-
said, wait. What you said that Allah is happy with us.
Yes. He's pleased with you.
Right. So what does happy mean?
He's pleased with you.
So what we've done again is we've changed. First we had appreciative, we replaced that with happiness, and now we're replacing happiness with pleased.
You're telling
But
me
you've
to
still
explain
not
it.
told me what
I
it
can't
means.
explain a word
You're like a
without using another
transgender
word.
militant who can't describe what a woman is.
Transgenderism.
You're like a transgender militant
God,
that can't
thank God
describe
our
what.
priests- thank God our priests aren't gay.
You don't have priests.
Your laws-
You don't
Thank
have
God.
priests. There's a gay mosque in South Africa.
The equivalent. The equivalent.
You don't have the equivalent. You don't have the equivalent.
Gay priests.
And
Imagine.
I'm calling
Gay
every
priests.
Christian to protest
Well done.
the synod in
No
November.
one's protesting.
Come to
No
London
one's
and protest those
No one's
apostate
pro-
bishops
no
and
one's
priests
protesting.
during
So
the
don't
synod.
speak about trans to us.
No.
Thank you very much.
Right. So
We're the
let's come
last
back.
person
So
to
let's
ever
come back to the question, because here's what you did. I showed you. Wait. Let's go back, because there's all these people that came late. Let me recap. Very quickly. Very quickly.
You just said that thing about Jesus, that
Would you
makes
like
no
to do
sense.
this timed?
No, I don't want to do time.
Right. Well. Then the less you interrupt,
go on.
the quicker I'll finish what I'm saying.
5 minutes. I've been here for an hour now.
You haven't been here for an hour,
Yes,
but it is now close to an hour.
No, it is an hour.
It's close to an hour. It's 45 minutes, 49 minutes, right?
It's an hour.
Okay, so I showed you a verse in the Quran that said Allah was appreciative. I said, what does that mean? You said that Allah's appreciation is not the same as our appreciation. So I said, okay, so what does it mean to be appreciative? And then you said happiness. And I said, well, what does it mean for Allah to be happy? And then you said pleased. Well, now let me ask you again. Is Allah pleased in the same way that I am? And if not, what does it mean to say Allah is pleased with me? What does it mean to say Allah is
You
pleased?
want Allah to explain something that only He has to you without using our words.
It's-
That's what you want.
Shall I reply?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm pointing out to you is that your Quran says on one hand that it is pure guidance, clear guidance in clear Arabic, and yet there are words that have no meaning in your Quran because the Quran commits you to the theological principle that Allah is not like His creation. So that means all the words that are used in the Quran that are creative, i.e. we understand them from the terms of creation, are meaningless terms.
Right.
So you've replaced appreciative with happiness, happiness with pleased. Tell me, what does it mean for Allah to be pleased?
It's kind of crazy to think that a Christian that in his book shows so much examples of God being angry,
Yeah,
from God killing people,
yeah,
God drowning people,
yeah,
of Him clearly being angry,
yeah.
coming to me and asking me, why is your God angry and have been?
Right.
It makes no sense. man.
Shall I
What are you on
square
about?
that circle for you now?
Yes, go on.
Right, I'm going to square the circle for
Square
you.
the circle.
Are you all listening? You're all listening.
I love how he's
Gonna-
joking like a guy
Gonna-
just in the back.
Where's my hype man? He's like, you've been late. Where you been all day?
Hyping you up, man.
Latino, come on time. Right? So let me square the circle for you.
I have to go praise him, by the way.
The defense, and I love this guy, and I hope you feel the love, and I hope you know that I love you. And I'm going to give you a gift, as I always do, every time we have a nice conversation, right? Right? But here's the thing: to defend his Quran, he's appealing to the Bible. So he's putting the Quran on the same level as a man-made book. He's saying, let me finish. I'm squaring that circle. So to defend his Quran from the problem that I've presented to him, he's now put the Quran and the Bible on the same level. We Christians believe that the Bible is man's words inspired by God. And he's right. He's right to point out the Bible does talk about God having emotions in the same way that I'm pointing out in the Quran. But why does it make sense in the Bible? I'll tell you why. Because the Bible teaches that man is made in the image of God.
Amen.
And so there is a touchstone between God and man in the image of God in man. So we can appreciate what does it mean for God to be angry because we know what it means for us to be angry. Muslims don't have that concept. And so they are back to the problem of they've got words in their Quran that describe God as having emotions, but they can't explain what the words mean, so therefore the words are meaningless words.
Let me speak, Bob. Thank you. So Bob here is criticizing me, comparing the Quran to the Bible, while over here, every single day when he's arguing with Muslims, when a Muslim comes, tells him a verse about the Bible, what does he do? He brings a verse from the Quran. He's one of the biggest hypocrites about Bob, come on. You know this very well. And secondly, the reason I'm doing it is because I can show his hypocrisy. He says it's not fine with our side, but when it happens with the Bible, oh no, it's fine. But with you guys, no, it's not. Come on, man.
Can I reply to that?
Yes, please.
Right, so let me just demonstrate why it's not hypocrisy.
Right.
Because I believe that the Quran is all man's words.
Oh, you do believe
The
that?
Quran is not from God, it's from men. So for me to compare man's words to man's words is fine.
Oh, so you
But
believe
what
that?
he did is he, to defend his Quran, compared it not only to men's words, but to words that he believes were corrupt words. So he's, to defend his Quran, comparing it to a book that he says is men's corrupt words. And he's using the Bible to try and defend the Quran, but he has never addressed the original argument. Let's be clear about what that argument is. The Quran claims to be clear Arabic, clear guidance that explains everything. The Quran says that Allah is not like anything in his creation, but the Quran says that Allah is appreciative. Appreciation is a characteristic of the created being. I am appreciative to God. I thank God for what he does for me. What the hell does it mean for God to be appreciative to me? What? Right, so I ask him, what does appreciation mean? And he says, is it like me being appreciative? He has to say no. Why? Because he believes that Allah is not like his creation. So he just replaces one word with another. Now it's happiness. But is Allah happy in the way that I'm happy? No. So therefore, what does happiness mean? What does happiness mean?
So Bob has clearly admitted now that the Bible is man's words. He's just said it.
That's what we believe.
It's man's
Inspired by the Spirit of God.
No, you didn't say that.
That's
You
what we
said,
believe.
I am comparing.
I am
man's
correcting
words
myself
to
now.
man's words.
Man's
So
words
really
inspired by the Spirit of
No,
God.
allow me
That's
to-
what we believe.
He's basically admitted that his Bible.
I thought you weren't going to
is
complain if I
man-made.
interrupt you.
It's fine.
I'm just pointing out, yeah.
So, he's admitted that the Bible is man's words. Literally admits it right here.
Not ashamed.
Man's words,
Not ashamed.
not God's words.
It's all right. We're not ashamed of
Not
it.
God's words. Yeah, he's ashamed. Right?
We're not ashamed or embarrassed by this.
Sure,
You
man.
found out something
Sure.
about
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So everyone here now can know that the Bible is man's words. It is not God's words. It is a man's. Yes or no, Bob?
Okay. So
No. I just, a yes or no answer.
no. I'm not going
You do
to.
the same thing with me.
Okay. I'm not. I'll just want to answer then.
Right. Perfect. So it's man's words. The Bible is man's words. Secondly, he's saying right now,
use the same,
he's
full
interrupting.
term, man's word
Tell your
inspired by
wingman to be
Spirit.
quiet.
That's
please.
what I said. Yes.
Tell the wing. No, we didn't say that.
Thank you, Uncle
It's
Asif.
not camera.
Did you get my gift that I sent to
Tell
you?
your wingman to be
thank you
quiet.
so much.
You need to tell your wingman to be
I
quiet.
Yeah.
didn't get, but-
It's all right, Uncle
Thank you.
Asif. I've got him. He's just digging himself a ditch. Let him dig.
All right,
Let him
wingman.
dig.
Thank you, wingman.
Let him dig.
Thanks, wingman.
Go on.
Right.
Thank you,
So,
Uncle.
The reason I'm comparing it to the Bible is because I can show his hypocrisy. You cannot come here and be like, God has no emotions when there is emotions in the Bible. That is my entire point. And as I've already said, God is appreciative. When God appreciates you, his appreciation is not like ours. Same thing as God, same thing as you. Your Bible, is God's happiness or anger in the Bible the same as ours? No, he's God. His anger isn't the same thing. Therefore, you need to explain that in the first place, right?
Okay.
Because you make no sense. Man.
So-
Because
so let-
and he's
So let me reply.
the Bible is
So
mad
let me
as well.
reply. So he said, and I'm glad that he admits that he is comparing God's words
Just like you-
to
just
man's
like you-
words.
just like you do.
But what I'm comparing, as far as I'm concerned, is man's words to man's words, because the Quran isn't written from, it's not from God.
you
It was
believe in it?
written by men. Let me finish.
believe
Let
in
me
it?
finish.
So why are you comparing it?
So the fact of the matter is that there is a contradiction within the Islamic deen. You cannot on one side say that Allah is not like anything in his creation and then tell me that the word Allah is appreciative has real meaning. Because anything that you can think or imagine the word appreciative to communicate is not what it means when it says Allah is appreciative. So in other words, we now have this word, this sound. It sounds like our word appreciative, but it's a meaningless sound because it doesn't communicate anything that you can intelligibly understand. That is the distinction between a word and a sound. If a tree falls off a branch, if a branch falls off a tree, let's get it the right way around. If a branch falls off a tree, it makes a sound, but it does not communicate anything intelligible. Why? Because it's a noise. But if I make a noise like blah, 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 that's an unintelligible noise because I haven't communicated anything to you.
Can I explain?
But I'm finishing. But the Quran has these terms like Allah is appreciative. But then when you ask a Muslim, what does it mean for Allah to be appreciative? They can't tell you what it means. But what they can tell you is it's not what you think and it's not what you imagine it to be. So if it's not what you think it to be and it's not what you imagine it to be, then that means it's just a noise like blah, 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 blah. And that means the Quran is just a load of nonsense, guys. So blah, 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 blah. Right, go on, respond to that.
Allow him to speak. Go on.
Also, the Quran says it's the words of a noble messenger. We showed last week.
Yeah.
Quran 69. It claims it's the words of a noble messenger. Who is it the words of? God or a noble messenger?
It's called, so it's the Old Testament, right? Whose words is that?
Okay, fine.
There we go.
Diverted,
Thank you
but
very
okay,
much.
No, I will
Yeah,
take it.
thank you.
Bro, let's finish our conversation. Go on.
Did divert.
Right, I had so much stuff in my mind, but you just kept on speaking. So, wait,
You got to practice, bro.
one second. I know, bro, I don't debate that.
Yeah.
That often, innit? 1 second. By the Bible. You were speaking. Bro, I had it right in the line.
We got him.
No.
We got him. He's on the ropes right now. He's on the ropes.
You're gonna put that on the first part.
Yeah, you should put that in the. You should put that in the beginning. Like he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes. It's going to appear at the
His
advert.
point is that he wants God to explain what God is in human terms. However, we know that God is something we cannot comprehend in the first place. How do
Right.
you expect him to explain it in human terms for us to comprehend? Yet he is a being, sorry, not a being, he is something that we cannot comprehend in the first place.
Can I reply to that?
Yes, please.
All right. Did you all hear what he just said? You expect God to explain it to you in human terms, thus implying that we shouldn't expect that. But isn't that exactly what the Quran's doing? Isn't it exactly what the Quran's doing when it says Allah is appreciative? Allah is explaining in human terms something about him. Let me explain why Christianity is better. Because the Christian faith does have descriptions of God that speak of emotions. You know, it says that God rises like a drunken man out of sleep, that he wakes up like a roaring lion. Yeah, that's in the Bible. Now, right, let me finish. Now notice how he wanted to jump immediately to the most literal translation, the most literal interpretation, whilst not allowing the same thing about the Quran. Right? But here's the thing. Because of the doctrine that we are made in the image of God, it means that when men inspired by the Spirit of God write that God is angry, it isn't a description of God that captures God in his essence, because Christians believe that God is unknowable, but it captures something of God's energy, God's activity in the world from a human perspective. Because we are made in the image of God, we can understand what that means. So when it says that God is angry, it allows us to know something about what God is doing in the world. But because Muslims say that God's anger is not like our anger and nothing like what you can think or imagine, then what the hell does it mean to say that Allah is angry? It means nothing.
From what we know, we can sort of deduce in a way.
Are we in the image of God?
Who?
We, us, human beings.
As in
Me and you.
Islamically,
Are we made in the image of God?
In Islamically.
I know what the answer is Islamically, but yes, answer from an Islamic perspective.
No.
No, right. So what is the reference point that makes this word about some transcendent other that sits in a plane beyond all imagination and description?
So you want God to explain
What makes that word over there meaningful in the created plane of created things? Where's the touch point? How do these two things meet philosophically?
Can God describe himself to you? If he came down now, would he be able?
Shall I answer as a Christian?
Yes.
Right. As a Christian, God has and does explain himself to us through the words of men because we are made in the image of God.
That isn't a question. I said, if God can come down now and explain himself to you how he looks, will he be able to?
How he looks. How he looks.
What's his form? How he looks? No.
No, he does.
Thank you.
Yes,
Why?
no, actually
Why?
he does. Yes. Hold on one second.
So he tells you.
Yes, I'm going to. I'm going to address that point
Cool.
because the other touchstone, which I forgot to mention, the other touchstone is the incarnation itself. Because at the incarnation, when humanity expresses it,
Jesus.
let me finish.
That's just Jesus.
Let me finish.
Not the Father.
Let me finish. Let me finish. That at the incarnation, at the incarnation, when God creates a humanity and fills it with himself, he is the full expression of divinity in human form, which is why Jesus says, "He who has seen me has seen the Father."
Wow.
So yes, and therefore, when we witness emotions expressed in Christ as a human being, we see a representation of the character of God.
And the Holy Spirit?
That's
Why is
part.
that?
That it's a full expression.
No. Jesus, you just said you had seen me, you seen the Father. No. He did not say God.
Well, and the yeah, okay. So I'll address that point as well, because I notice you have no answer to my argument, and you want to get off the topic as quickly as possible.
Just one thing. I've already told you the answer. We're gonna keep on.
Your
going
answer
with
is. Your answer is.
God is appreciative, isn't the same as us. That is it.
Right, but what then does appreciative mean?
We don't know because he is
There
God.
you go.
He
We
is God.
don't know.
Yes, it's something.
And if it's
because it's something we cannot.
So nothing has been communicated then?
Not them. Not
So
as
nothing
God
has been
when he comes down as a
communicated
man.
then?
Right, God is it's something we do not know. It's too far
Okay.
high from us for us to know anything.
Tell me.
Therefore, when he says appreciative,
Yeah.
it's from what we know we can interpret.
Tell me.
From what we can deduce and interpret. That's it.
Okay, so
We
it's
cannot know his true form and how he's appreciative, how he's happy.
so
how he's
Allah has
happy.
not communicated anything.
Yes.
He's just given you
I
this
already
word
told
and then
it's
says
from
you
what we
put
know.
your own
It's from
interpretation
what we
into
know.
the word.
It's from what we know.
Wait. So to be clear, what you're saying is Allah gives you a word,
Yes.
right? Like like Ave. Do you know what Ave means? Yeah. So I've just given you a word, right? What does Ave mean? Right. So
Wait, is an-
I'm going to
Arabic
show.
word.
I'm going to show you what you're essentially describing.
Is this a Latin word or?
It's a Latin word, right? So I give you the word Ave, and then you make up your own meaning to that word. So just make up a meaning of the word Ave.
I won the debate.
I won the debate. So Ave means he won the debate, right? But the point is your perfume, bro. So it's the point is what he said is that Allah gives us these words. We don't know what they mean, but it's what
we
we
do know what
we
appreciative
we
means.
do. So tell me, what does it mean for Allah to be
Not in his
appreciative?
case, we know what
There
the
you go
word
then.
means.
So we're back
We
to
know
the
what-
problem.
We know what the word itself
You're
means.
sunk, bro.
No, I'm not.
You're sunk,
no,
bro.
I'm not, Bob.
You're sunk, bro.
It's in your own book.
I'm starting to
Your
feel
God-
bad
No.
that I'm beating you so
Your
badly.
Your God has the same exact things.
Right.
He's angry, he's happy. All of this stuff in his Bible.
Now you have been
know
here
this.
more than 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You've
an
been
hour.
more than here more
Yeah.
than 5 minutes. You've definitely been over here an hour.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to keep going?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's up to you. I'm happy to
So-
keep going.
right. My point, I'll just probably end it at this.
All right. Final comments
my
then.
point-
Final comments.
comments.
Final comments. So make them good, because you got a lot to recover from.
Right. His point is that God cannot be happy. God cannot be sad about it. Even though in his book, all of this is the case. God is angry when he sunk all those people in Noah's Ark. God is angry when he ordered to slaughter the Amalekites and their children and their donkeys, which is crazy. But it's fine. God is angry upon all of these. God is happy when he admits people into paradise. All of this, God has emotions. However, even he would say that his emotions isn't the same as ours. Yes or no? Just a yes or no answer. Is God's emotions the same as ours? All right, just answer. Go on, answer.
Okay.
Here's the time.
So-
Don't go on a lecture, please. I
No,
just
no,
want
no.
to-
These are final comments. So finish your final comments.
Right.
Make a point. Come on, bro. You can do it. You can do it.
Come on.
You can do it. Go on.
do it, go
Go on. We'll clap you to the finish as you stagger over the line.
Right. So in his own Bible, all of this, God has emotions. God has emotions in all of it. Yeah, when it comes to the Quran, he's like, no, God can't have this, blah, blah, blah. It contradicts me completely. And then he comes to me for comparing it to the Bible when that's all what he does. When a Muslim man comes to him and asks him about a biblical verse, straight away he goes back to the Quran to compare it. He does it all the time, yet when I do it, it's bad. So you guys can clearly see the hypocrisy anyways. Secondly, when it comes to the actual argument, thirdly, sorry. For the actual argument, God is not like us. We do not believe God is like us. He is never like us. He is a higher power than all of us. Therefore, his happiness isn't like our happiness. His anger isn't like our anger. And his appreciativeness isn't like our ones. That is how God is. Our God does not come as a man. He is not us. He is a higher power like theirs, which even though it makes no sense, because before he said Jesus is God, but his godliness doesn't enter into him. He's also God. It makes no sense. You guys can. And then fourthly, he admits that the Bible is the word of man, not God. So that sort of gives everything in the first place.
Okay. So in my final comments, you heard him admit the point I've been making all along. That the words appreciative, anger, or any of these descriptive words don't mean anything you can think or imagine when you're talking about Allah. So if they don't think anything you can think or imagine, then whatever you understand by the word appreciative, it isn't that, right? So if it isn't that, then that means the word appreciative, when it's in the Quran about Allah, is the same as a branch of a tree falling off a tree. It's just a noise. Doesn't communicate anything intelligibly. That's the point of words. Words are not sounds. They are communications, or communications of intelligible concepts. And so therefore what we see is that the Quran is full of gibberish sounds. They sound like our words, but they're not words, because they don't communicate anything intelligibly. Now, what about the fact that we've got these things in the Bible?
Okay.
Christians believe in an energy essence distinction. The words, like God's appreciation, or God's love, or God's anger in the Bible, are descriptions of God's activity in creation. They are energies in creation. They are what God is doing in creation. They're not descriptions of God's essence. Why do they communicate something intelligibly and meaningfully to us? For two reasons. One, because of the doctrine that we are made in the image of God. And two, because of the incarnation. Which means that when Christ became sad and he wept at Lazarus being in the tomb, we get an image of what it means for God to do something in creation with things that are against his will. When we see that God becomes angry because we become angry, we understand that that is saying something about what God is doing when he punishes those things that are against his will. In other words, they are communicating intelligibly. Now, the fact of the matter is, we Christians, without shame, say that the words of the Bible are the words of men inspired by the Spirit of God. Notice he left that last bit off every single time. You notice that? Because the Dawagandist only wants to hear what they want to hear. They don't do intelligent conversation.
Rewind them all.
I am arguing from an Islamic position to point out the problems of the Islamic position. He can't even argue from a Christian position to argue problems with a Christian position because he hasn't taken the time to understand it. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, since the Quran is riddled with self-evident contradiction, it is a false teacher.
The Bible is saying, wow.
The Christian faith does not have the same problem, and you've seen that demonstrated in the debate. And that's why you need to pick up a Bible. You need to not listen to the Dawagandists active in the park lying about Christianity, and you need to speak and speak to intelligent, knowledgeable Christians about the Christian faith. Any questions to either of us? Go on.
No one's clapping, my friend. No one's clapping.
Literally, loads of people clap, but he said no one's clapping.
1, 2, 3.
Go on.
Now, it doesn't actually matter if Christianity was the literal truth or it's the symbolic truth. So, for example, in the Greek mythologies, people take a lot of wisdom from, even though it's not literal truth, like the story and these things. It doesn't really matter if it's the literal truth or the symbolic truth. Some people say, even if it wasn't literally true, from that symbology, we derive a lot of learning from that. Is that a valid argument, or would you say it has to be literal or not?
Who's the question to?
Either.
Do you want to go first?
I don't know. Well,
All right.
I barely even.
So
I'm
not. This is the thing, guys. If you give a speech, like we have to interpret your question. So the question is, does symbology communicate truth? And as Christians, we absolutely believe in the symbology of the Bible. Why do we believe that?
Why?
Because it says in the New Testament that the Old Covenant were shadows and types of the things to come. The festivals and the Sabbaths and the Promised Land and the covenant with Moses was all pointing towards the Messiah. And when the Messiah comes, those shadows and types have their completion. The Promised Land has its completion in the coming of the kingdom of God. The temple has its completion in the establishment of the church. The priesthood, the Levitical priesthood, has its completion in the priesthood of Melchizedek that all Christians belong to and are a nation of priests. The sacrifices in the temple are a symbol of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. So for Christians, symbology and typology is a natural part of our playing field. It's a natural part of the horizons of our worldview. And so symbology does communicate truth, but it must be interpreted by the authority of the church. It is not by the authority of apostate priests, nor is it by the authority of anyone who just picks up a Bible and starts making declarations. And let's just be clear, guys. Let's just be clear. He points out gay priests as a problem in the Christian world. What about all the terrorists killing Muslims in the Islamic world? Yes, we've got our problems, but they have worse problems. Mosques and schools being blown up, children being murdered, Muslim children being murdered by Muslims. So I don't want to hear lectures about a gay priest until you deal with the fact that you've got Muslims killing Muslims by the gun and by the bomb. Your problems are bigger than ours. We don't need to take any lectures from you.
Let me respond, please. Our problems come from groups that fight against each other. The book.
Thank you for admitting he has problems.
I'm not saying we don't. Oh, come on, man.
But apparently a gay priest is worse than a jihadi blowing up a mosque.
Because those are two people fighting against each other. It is
So that's
not,
better.
It is not a book that we disagree upon. Everything in that book, everyone believes in. You guys.
That's not true.
It is very yes. It is
Shia,
very,
Sunni don't agree.
no.
Ibadi
In the
don't
Quran,
agree.
no, you're lying.
Sufis don't agree. Ahmadiyya don't agree.
The Quran,
So he was lying.
The Quran, everyone believes in. Shia,
Taqiyya.
Sunni is the base. It's the
Taqiyya.
same thing.
No, it isn't.
No,
No, it isn't.
So the
No, it
Quran-
isn't.
Ahmadiyya.
No, it isn't.
Wait, stop.
No, it isn't.
Is the Quran the same or not?
Right, so
No. Stop.
you just asked me a question, and then when I tried to answer, you tried to shut me down.
Yes or no?
So at the
Yes
end,
or no?
I'm going to. So they sing it. Like, ladies and gentlemen, did you hear how he changed the question from the statement? What he actually said was that we all agree about what the book says. That's what he said. But then he asked me the question, well, do all Muslims think that the book is unchanged? Those are two different questions.
No, I didn't say that.
Christians,
My question-
Christians,
I
one
said,
second,
is the book
Christians have an agreed interpretation on the question.
That's more-
Yes, they do. They have an agreed interpretation about women priests or gay priests. Practicing gay priests cannot practice
Why is the Church of
the
England
priest
doing it? So why is the Church of
because they have fallen away from the faith. But what about the jihadis?
they are
What about the
ignored.
jihadis
They
that
are-
blow up a mosque? Are they following the Quran or not? Are they following the Quran? Ah, there you go. So he's saying
But it
that
is
when
not an
Muslims don't
organisation.
agree about the interpretation of the Quran, that therefore it's okay when Muslims don't agree about the interpretation of the Quran. But if Christians don't agree about the interpretation of the Bible, it's a problem. It's called double standards. What's your next double standard? Let's expose that one. Go on, give us another double standard.
It's not an interpretation.
Go on, go on.
Churches, it is a formal organization.
Yes.
That goes together and voted with most of the priests agreeing that gay priests should be allowed.
So now,
No, stop,
so
Bob,
now
Bob,
it's
Bob,
about
Bob,
formal
Bob,
organisations.
Bob, I'm leaving.
Are the
Allow me
Mahabs,
to speak.
are the Mahabs,
I-
are the legal schools formal organisations?
The legal schools.
Yeah,
so
they-
is
are
there
they-
organization like
Are they
the
formal
church.
organisations?
When I say an organization, I mean the church or the mosque of that country. So, for example,
You don't know what you're
Morocco
talking about,
has-
do you?
Yes, I do.
What's the church?
For Morocco, the Church of England came
No, no,
together.
no, no.
Yes,
What's
yes,
the
yes.
church?
No, no.
Show me
I'm
Church
not
of
asking
England in the
question.
Bible.
No, it's an organization that controls
an
the priesthood.
institution.
An institution, or
Right.
an organization. that
Or the
controls-
legal schools are
Yeah.
fake
That
institutions.
controls what?
Wait, one second.
That controls what?
Doesn't control anything.
Oh, so the Church of England
Let me
has no
finish.
power.
Let me finish.
Ah,
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
You know,
let's
there
steal
are
something.
priests all over the country.
Yes,
that
yes,
voted.
yes. They've got
They
powers
have
over
voted.
diocese.
They have voted.
They have
that
powers
it is
over
okay
finances.
for gay priests. to
And
be
there
allowed
are
to
Muslim
churches.
scholars who are
They-
calling for jihad.
They are not scholars. Which scholars?
There are
Name one.
Muslim scholars
Name one.
calling for
Name
jihad.
one. Name one. Name
Right.
one. Name
Ibn
one.
Kathir,
Name one. He's
Al
dead. He's
Suyuti.
dead.
All right.
Maududi.
Maududi.
dead.
What's the one that the
He's dead.
Salafists love?
He's
The guy
dead.
that he's recently died
Listen,
from Saudi Arabia. You don't like the Wahhab. What is his name? Abdul something Wahhab. Abdul Wahhab. Abdul Wahhab called for jihad.
He's
Right?
saying that
So-
killing for
so-
jihad and they're dead. Oh, you
Are
retarded.
you telling me
Are
that
you
we
s-
can't instantly Google
My friend.
Imam calling for jihad?
Yes, it
Just
was in
Google
the
it on your phones.
1900s when there are
Just
wars.
Google it on your phones.
There are
You're
wars
going to
in
find
the
YouTube
1900s.
videos of Muslim imams calling for jihad today.
No. Those are
And what is the result of that? Muslims are killing Muslims. Shia are killing Sunni, Sunni are killing Shia, Sunnis are killing Ahmadiyya, Sunnis are killing Sufi.
Are Muslim.
Yeah? And is that,
Because unlike you guys,
is it okay to
somebody
kill them?
goes against
Is
the
it
book.
okay to kill them?
No.
Good. See, he's better than his scholars.
Sorry? I'm better than our scholars.
Yeah, you're better than your
You
scholars.
can't just go and kill somebody.
Right.
They have to trial. They have to
So my
trial
point to you is,
blah, blah,
my
blah.
point to you is,
No, my
your point,
no.
go on.
Bob,
You finish your point and then I'll correct you, go on.
Your church has come together.
Whose church?
Your church.
Christ's
Is
church.
the Church of England
Do I
your
own the
church or not?
church?
Is the Church of England your church or not?
No.
Are you in England?
Yes.
Do you go to a church over here?
Yes, I do.
So it's the Church of England.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
That's the
It's
church
church
in
of
England,
organisation.
not the Church
No.
of England.
Which is controlled
There's
by
a
the
legal
church,
distinction
which is
between those two
control-
terms.
And it's controlled by whom?
Right. So the church
What's that controlled by?
isn't my church, that is an independent church. It's not controlled by
No.
anyone but the
Most
congregation.
of the churches in the country, who are they controlled by? The Church of England.
The
You know this very
most
well.
of the buildings that are called churches are
Churches
controlled
or
by the
temples.
Church of England, yes.
Thank you very much.
That's true.
And that Church of England
Is that
has
all
these-
buildings?
I said most.
Is it all?
I said most.
So it's not all.
I said most.
So it's not all.
Of course
There we
there's-
go.
They're separate ones.
Right.
I'm not an idiot. Anyways, the whole point. Your Church of England has convened together, and by the way, it's a voting. It's not one person.
Yeah, it's a vote
It's
in a
basic.
synod.
You're basically
Yeah,
your entire
it's happening in
priest-
November, and Christians should come and protest it.
No one's doing anything. 'Cause you know why?
Christians should come
They
and
don't
protest
care.
in
They don't
November.
care. They don't go to
Yeah,
churches,
this
they
is
don't
the
do
bragging
That's
rights
why.
that Muslims have because you won't fight the apostate
'Cause
bishops.
you-
So
you
in
don't do
November,
anything.
the 13th to the 15th, come to Church House
They
in
are,
London
they are,
and
they
protest the apostate bishops
They
of the
are.
Church of England.
They are. Do you know why? Because they don't care. They
And,
don't
the,
care.
and
They
until
don't
we
care.
fight these apostate bishops, he'll keep saying that.
Imagine the same thing happens.
Right?
In an
But
Islamic
now,
organization
where
in Morocco.
are the Muslims?
Imagine in Morocco,
Where are the Muslims
in Morocco-
fighting the imams who are legitimizing blowing up mosques?
I condemn them, of course.
You condemn. I condemn the apostate bishops. What's your point?
No, but it's most of your priests, isn't
Like
it?
the
It's
thing
most
is,
of your priests.
no, not true.
It's the Church of England.
Literally not
It
true.
was a voting
Literally not
It was a
true.
vote-
Show me a statistic.
Literally not true.
Did they vote or not?
Like, can I correct you on
Did they
something?
vote
Right,
or
no,
not?
I'm going to correct you on something. I'm going to correct you on something.
Answer my question. and
I'm
then you
going
can
to
keep-
correct you on something.
Did the Church of England vote or not?
They haven't had the vote yet.
No, but they did have a vote.
No, they haven't had the
About
vote,
the gay
mate.
priests.
I am literally
It was-
telling you the answer.
Bob,
Literally telling you an answer.
did they have a vote convening?
It is an emergency synod in November.
Sure. Did
Do
they
you
already
know
have a
what?
vote? Did they
No,
already have a
they
vote?
haven't.
Yes, they did, man.
No,
It's
they
all over
haven't.
the news. Go away,
No,
bro.
how they haven't. Right.
It was all over
So
the
now,
lying.
so
He's
now
lying.
let me address something,
It was
guys.
all over the news.
Right, now let me correct
all
him.
over the news.
Let me tell you what the
Gay
church actually is.
Gay priests,
The
even though
church
they're condemned about being
is
gay,
the
they don't
body
care.
of Christ. It is the believers and the disciples who follow Jesus Christ. If a priest teaches something contrary to the apostolic faith, they are not a Christian. They are not a part of the body of Christ. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the distinction. The distinction between the reality that he's trying to talk about and that Christians actually believe in. But let's be clear. I'd rather have the problems that I face as a Christian than what the Muslims face in the Muslim community. Because the teachings of violence by so many imams has created a cycle of violence that has resulted in the death of thousands of Muslims and thousands of Christians and thousands of Yazidis and thousands of Jews. And why is it? It's coming because the Muslims have been dominated by institutions that have legitimized violence. No! Notice that Siraj has interrupted me. So that's 2 weeks in a row that I've been interrupted by Muslims. So that means I can interrupt any dawah anywhere in the park.
You're going to do it now.
Oh, no, I had the thing in my mind and now it's gone. Seriously.
Right, so tell me this. I want to ask you a question. Answer this question.
No.
Are the schools of fiqh institutions?
It's my time
Are the
to
schools of fiqh institutions?
It's my time to
Answer the question, then you can speak. No, answer it.
His point.
Now notice he doesn't want to answer the question.
Back to the Q&A.
Allow me to speak.
Oh, the Lord.
When I
Oh,
speak-
you interrupted me continuously.
No,
You can't complain now. You
spoke for
interrupted.
10 minutes.
Did you all hear him interrupt me continuously when I was talking?
And he's going like a
Right.
class.
Yeah, of course,
Yes,
of course. So you can't complain if I
Right,
interrupt you.
Let
Are the
me
laws
answer
of
your
fiqh
point.
institutions?
Let me answer your point.
Name me one law of fiqh that doesn't legitimize violent jihad.
Violent jihad.
Yeah, name me
That's
one.
like a crusade.
Name me one.
What is that?
Name me one.
Name one. Sorry again.
School of fiqh that does not legitimize violent jihad.
Jihad is allowed in self-defense.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the same with Christianity.
And Sunnis, now notice, remember what he said. The problem is that the institution has people teaching about gay priests. Can he show me a Bible verse that says that gay priests are okay? Show me a Bible verse. Show me a Bible verse.
Name one.
They are apostates.
Name one.
No. Tell me, yes, they are apostates.
My friend, you're
They're
not-
apostates.
Secondly, his
Ladies
point-
and gentlemen,
Bob, allow me, no.
Why are the Ahmadiyya? Right, let's call it a day. Let me give you a gift.
One last thing.
Let me give you a gift.
One last thing. Right,
one last thing.
One last
Can I ask you a
His
question?
point, no, please. His point is that the Muslims are fighting each other. He doesn't realize that all this chaos in the first place is being caused by whom?
Blame the
By
Christians.
Christian countries.
Blame the
Like
Christians
America,
for the problems
like
that
America,
Muslims have amongst
like the
themselves.
UK.
It's always someone else's fault.
Bob,
Always blame the Jews. And if you're not blaming the Jews, blame the Christians.
I'm not blaming the Jews.
It's never the Muslims' responsibility that they're fucking one another up all over the Islamic world.
You need to repent to God. I'm joking. You already gave me that book. I'm good.
Which book? You don't know which book I'm giving you.
I'm not.
You don't know. Doesn't want to give. Doesn't want to give.
But thank you. Though. Anyway,
Have a
the whole
chocolate.
point-
There you go. I gave you a gift.
Thank you very much. Anyways, the whole is it halal? I don't know.
Yeah, of course it's halal.
Anyways, the whole point is that he comes over here and says the Muslims are fighting the Muslims, not expecting or not saying that all this chaos is being caused by Christian countries like Bob, allow me to speak. America, the UK invading Iraq, causing stuff in Libya, which by the way the French and NATO went with a no-fly zone over Libya to topple Gaddafi. In Iraq, in France, in Syria, all this chaos is caused by your countries. Your countries that are so-called Christian, which by the way makes no sense because your laws aren't even there.
Can I reply now? So firstly,
I'm not finished.
Go on.
Your wingman is helping. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss. It's funny how
you're getting a pay deduction.
The whole point is that all this is caused by Christian countries like yours, like over here in the UK, invading other countries and causing chaos, causing a power vacuum, causing extremism. Because by the end, if you see, you are a small child, right? You don't know much. America comes here, bombs your entire family. You're now thinking to yourself, they're bombing my entire family. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to that country and bomb theirs. Why? Because you're a child. You don't know better. Nobody's taught you anything. Because of countries like yours going and bombing out other people's countries.
Can I reply?
Yes, please. Go
Right.
on.
So firstly,
Yes or no,
firstly, he's only told you half a story.
Okay.
Now, there's no doubt that Western interference in the Muslim world has caused chaos in the Muslim world. There's no doubt, and I'm not denying it.
Yes or no?
But firstly, let's be clear, the West is not Christian. The West does not call itself Christian.
Isn't a Christian country?
Now notice he's interrupting, right? But what he didn't tell you is all the self-inflicted injuries of the Muslim world. It wasn't the West that made Shia and Sunni kill one another. It's 1400 years of hatred that both sides teach against the other.
That's right.
There was no Western invasion of Sudan that led to the Sudanese government seeking to impose Sharia law on its entire country, that led to the genocidal murder of 2 million Christians in South Sudan. There was no imposition of Western influence that led the same Islamist government to wage war against black Africans to make them more Arab. Arabization comes from within Islam, not from without. I've got a brother from Sudan, correct? Am I lying or telling the truth? There you go. And he is not a Christian. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not Western influence that has made Saudi Arabia bomb Yemen, my apologies, Yemen. Bomb Yemen and kill 1 million people. They're doing that quite on their own. Ladies and gentlemen,
Western weapons.
the fact of the matter is that the Dawagandists want you to believe that everything that is wrong in the Islamic world is anyone's fault but their own. Anyone's fault but their own. And ladies and gentlemen, gullible, weak liberals go along with that lie. Ladies and gentlemen,
By the way, we're Christians.
Western influence did not force the Barbary pirates to attack Christian shipping in the Mediterranean. It was Islamic teaching of jihad. For 1,000 years, ladies and gentlemen, over 1,000 years, Muslim armies marched into Europe to the chant of Allahu Akbar, desecrating churches, raping Christian women, attacking Christian villages and towns. And they did it because of Islamic teaching. No one forced them to. It was not Western imperialism that made them do that. It was Islamic teaching. And that same Islamic teaching is what is behind Muslims killing Muslims. Because one group takfirs the other group, and because they are takfired as unbelievers, jihad is permitted according to their religion. Ladies and gentlemen, don't believe the dawah lies, because without lies, Islam dies.
That's his promo. He's here speaking about all this stuff about Barbary pirates. My friend, who killed 6 million Jews? Who, in the first
The Nazis.
The
Nazis killed 6 million Jews. Are Nazis Christians? No.
Hitler had a Christian cross next to his desk to stop lying. Secondly,
The Nazis were a pagan movement.
Yeah, because you deserved it.
Brother.
I deserve that the Jews killed. Like, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard a Muslim say that the Jews deserved it.
Even the Christians used to not like you.
There you go. That's the fruit of Islam. He said that the Jews deserved the Holocaust.
Only after Constantinople.
That's the problem with Islam and the anti-Semitism within Islamic texts. There is a better way. The way of Christ. The way of forgiveness. That's what the Muslim world needs. That's what Palestine needs right now, is forgiveness.
Islam has one book. How can you compare authenticity?
No, it's not true.
Ignore him, please, yeah?
Yeah, go on.
Quran in Saudi Arabia is different from the Quran.
Brother, nobody knows you. Go away. Go away.
Nobody knows
My
him.
God,
Ignore
man.
him. Ignore him.
Right, his entire point, guys, please. His entire point is that, and by the way, he says Muslims are fighting each other, forgetting that one of the wars now is what, Bob? Ukraine and Russia. Two Christian states, with two churches fighting each other for land. And you also forgot in the Cold War, what was it?
Do you want me to answer that?
And Russia, again, two Christian countries. And then after, there are
I'll embarrass him
countless
later, let him
history.
finish.
The Spanish Inquisition, where millions of Muslims got killed, forcibly converted. He doesn't speak about it. There are countless examples. Christianity, by the way, has killed much more than Islam has ever would, and you know that as well. You know that World War II was not started by an Islamic country, my friend. World War I, neither. The Holocaust, neither. All of this is started by Christian states. All right. Go on.
Okay, so, guys, this demonstrates why it is important. Brother, please, focus. Yeah, right? So, guys, this demonstrates why it is important that we learn history, that we learn our history. Because if we don't learn our history, the Dawagandists will simply make up a history and tell it to you. And if you're a gullible, uneducated, unhistorical Christian, you'll believe the nonsense. Let me just correct a few of his historical comments. Firstly, he mentioned that there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine. And he's absolutely right. It's an abomination that comes from nationalism, which is exactly why, as Christians, we should reject nationalism. But then he said that the Cold War was between Russia and America. Well, America is a liberal, humanist, secular state, and Russia was an openly atheist state. Not two Christian countries fighting there. Notice he's interrupting. Notice he's interrupting. Also he said, ladies and gentlemen, he goes on to try and say that Christianity is responsible for more deaths than anyone else, and then he used World War II as his example. World War II and World War I were nationalistic wars based upon the idea by people, the philosophies of John Locke, Thomas Jefferson,
Nietzsche.
no, not Nietzsche, that came later. Well, World War II maybe a bit Nietzsche. In other words, they were atheistic, deistic philosophies, not Christianity. That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. But let me tell you something that you don't know. The biggest murder of people that the world has ever seen happened when the Mughals invaded India.
That's right.
And they tried to wipe out the Hindus. And they killed, over a period of hundreds of years, 600 million people.
I'll respond, brother.
The biggest murder that history has ever seen. And notice, the Islamists are triggered. And they're triggered because I don't believe the lies. And neither should you. The fact of the matter is, the Barbary pirates and the Islamic jihads against the Christian world were done because of Islamic teaching. It was the Crusades were a response to 7 centuries of Islamic aggression. Islamic aggression, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to learn your history and not believe the lies that you are told about your history.
Finally. His whole point is about the Mongols. The Mongols have killed
Moguls.
Muslims as well. The Mongols.
Moguls.
Yes. They've killed much more Muslims as well, you know. Loads of them. Yes or no? Just do a yes or no answer.
No.
All right.
They killed more Hindus than anyone else.
Cool.
The
Right.
biggest
So they've
massacre
killed-
in
they've
human
killed
history
Muslims as well.
was of the Hindus by the Muslims.
Colonialists as well, which by the way are Christian. The slave trade was a Christian thing going from Africa to America to the UK. You know very well the entire slave trade. A Christian affair. The slave traders were Christian. It was made by a Christian right over here. Yes, Islam had a slave trade as well. However, it didn't have as much deaths and misery as the ones that Christianity had.
Had more. Had more.
Where's your proof? Where's your proof? Where's your proof?
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Where's your proof?
he mentioned about the slave trade and Christianity. This is why you need to know history. Because slavery predates Christianity. And the only place in the world, in the world today where I can legally buy a slave is in the Islamic world. Why? Why? Because Muslims had a slave trade for 1400 years. Christians had a transatlantic slave trade for 300 years.
That's killed much more.
And the Christians were the only ones that abolished the slave trade. We were the only ones that spent money, shed blood, and died to stop the slave trade. And it was Christians who stopped the Islamic slave trade. They didn't stop it. They did not stop it. They did not stop it because of any internal Islamic reason. Now listen to what he just said. He just said, no, wasn't the Christians, it was the UN. When was the UN founded? 1948. That means he's just admitted that up to 1948, the Islamic world still had a slave trade. I, as a Christian, don't need to take lectures from a Muslim about the slave trade. I need to lecture him about the slave trade because my Messiah never owned a slave. His prophet gave slaves as gifts.
In his book, it allows the killing of slaves if they do not obey you. Yes or no? Does your book allow the killing of slaves?
Okay, shall I answer that?
Yes.
Right. So the question is, does my book allow the killing of slaves? Now what is skipped in the asking of this question, now notice he doesn't want you to understand real Christianity. He's frightened that you could understand real Christianity. Because Christians believe in the Bible, but we believe in the covenants. Just check me now, fact check me now. Do Christians believe in covenants? The answer is going to be yes, we do. So to strictly answer the question, does any verse anywhere in my book say that slaves can be killed? Yes. But do Christians have an understanding of a new covenant? Yes. And in that new covenant, does my Messiah say that I have come to set the captives free? Yes. And all the captive slaves? Yes. So that is what Christ is saying about setting captive slaves free. But now let me challenge him. I've quoted a verse in the Gospel of Luke about setting slaves free. Show me a verse in the Quran where it says, set your slaves free. Set slaves free. All of them. All slaves free. Show me.
وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة.
Yeah.
What do you know about the good way? Freeing slaves is the good way. God
Yes.
promotes it. His people build America.
Just ignore him, bro. Keep going.
وما
Keep
أدراك
going.
ما العقبة. فك رقبة. I don't know, bro. فك رقبة. What do you know of the good way? Freeing slaves is the good way. God promotes it. He tells you to free slaves. If you want good deeds, you free slaves. If you break a law, free slaves. There are so much conditions and so much good deeds regarding freeing slaves. His case, however, you are allowed to kill slaves. And then he's saying Jesus came with, oh, let me free with the slaves. The slave trade happened for 300
What is it you want to show me?
That's just about ushering in. It's the verse he's quoting.
Yeah.
Surah 9.
Right. So
Surah 9.
the thing that he doesn't tell you is the context. A context of setting slaves free is that you are bringing slaves in to set free. I don't deny that the Quran says you can set slaves free, but the Quran legitimizes the taking of slaves. Christianity teaches that all slaves are set free in Christ. That's why the first time slavery was abolished in England was in 1068, when William the Conqueror came and set slaves free. This is why you need to know your history. This is why you must know your history. Because Muslims are telling you lies about your history, and gullible dimwits who can't pick up a book and educate themselves are just believing the lie. So when in 1068 Christians were abolishing the slavery in England, where in the Islamic world, what region of the Islamic world was slavery being abolished? Can you name one?
Allow me to speak this. King
Name one.
Faisal freed all the slaves in Saudi Arabia.
What time?
I don't know.
What year?
I don't know the year. It's King Faisal. I don't know.
Right.
Then I said,
So that's got to be after the foundation of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, correct? Which means after World War I, does it not?
my argument
There you go. So I said in 1068, Christians set free slaves.
allow me to speak.
He quotes King Solomon, King Faisal, Faisal of Saudi Arabia. That's after World War I. So he's admitted again that up to the 1900s, Muslims were still practicing slavery. Why did King Faisal set slaves free? Because there's some Quranic verse? No, it's because the West said to King Faisal, you set them free or we won't back you. And without our backing, you won't be king. And that's why King Faisal set his slaves free in the 1900s.
He doesn't know history. It's very clear he doesn't know history.
It's all about greed, isn't it?
Right, brother, stop. He doesn't know his history at all. He says King Faisal freed slaves for Western backing. Yet he is the same one who issued an oil embargo. He issued an oil embargo against the West. So clearly, if it was because of the West, he would not have freed them in any way, right? King Faisal issued an oil embargo throughout the entirety of the US, the UK, and Europe for their backing of Israel. And the whole oil embargo, they hated him. So stop with the BS about blah, 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 blah. Secondly, his point about the slave trade, that Jesus came and freed all the slaves and that if you are a Christian, you are not a slave. Forgetting that the entire slave trade, for about 300 years, most of the slaves there that were taken from Africa were what religion? Christian.
And sold by who? Arab Muslims.
Christian slave traders in the US.
You forgot that bit of history, and this is why you need to know history.
The slave, how is the slave trade involved?
Because the west of Africa, from which we were taking slaves,
they were Christian
were
slaves. What are you on
Muslims.
about?
And they were not Christians. It was Muslims selling animists to the West.
You're lying. So he's basically trying to
So
say
Muslims
Ghana,
sold slaves to
Ghana,
Christians,
Ghana.
but now a Muslim is blaming Christians for the slave trade that they participated in.
Ghana, Mali, South Africa, all Muslim nations now.
Chad is
They all know they were sold and taken in inhumane conditions by Christian slave traders.
And Muslims
You're not allowing me to speak.
castrated black men in their slave trade.
Proof,
And they took women as sex slaves.
proof. There is no proof. Secondly, my whole
Madam, America is not the only place that there has been slaves. Not the only place where there has been slaves. You need an education. Let me just correct you, because I'll show you how ignorant you are. The slave trade was so big in the Islamic world that there were entire armies of slaves. The Mamelukes, the Janissaries were slave armies. You seem to think that only America had slaves. Madam, pick up a book. You're uneducated. You're just uneducated. You're just uneducated. I can buy a black slave in Chad today from Muslims, but I can't go anywhere in the Christian world. Chad is a Muslim country.
Christians as well.
Brother, from Sudan, were there not slaves being taken in Sudan by Janjaweed? Right now. There you go, madam. In the Islamic world, right now, Muslims are taking slaves. I don't need a lecture from any Muslim about slavery. I, the white Christian man, need to lecture you and you and you about how to abolish slavery. Because it's the Islamic world that's still practicing slavery. So let me educate you Muslims. Let me make you better than your religion does.
Stop. Bob, thank you very much. It's kind of crazy seeing Bob, the embodiment of a slave trader in the 1600s and 1700s. saying-
Was an Arab.
What? Sorry? Was an Arab.
Yes.
Oh, so the slave trade that was
And a white man.
To America, to the UK.
Did you hear what I said?
That was all Arabs.
Did you hear what I said?
What?
I said,
What
the
is it?
embodiment that you said, the embodiment of a slave trader, and I said an Arab, I paused, and then I said, and a white man. Because I'm not denying slavery was a European phenomena.
It wasn't a
But what I'm
phenomenon,
pointing
it was
out to all you ignorant Dawagandists that believe in this bullshit propaganda that no slavery was ever practiced in the Islamic world is that you are ignorant of your own history.
He's gonna stop and I can speak.
The Islamic
He
world
loves to rant.
has
He loves to
practiced
rant.
slavery for 1400 years. And as you have seen from the testimony of someone from Sudan, it's still happening today. 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 So let's not talk about,
It's a lie. He said it's
let's
a lie.
not talk about,
He said it's a lie.
then the two Sudanese need to argue with one another. Ladies and gentlemen.
Right, allow me
The
to
two
Bob,
Sudanese
Bob,
need to
Bob,
argue with one
I
another.
need to go now.
All right.
Because I have to go place in 10 minutes. I need to go now.
Right, you go. You
My whole
go.
point, perfect. Right. My whole point.
Enjoy your chocolate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You look
it.
after yourself.
Somewhere here, somewhere.
Always
But
giving you gifts,
my whole
bro.
point, thank you. I appreciate it.
I have a question.
Oh, you know what, here.
You said earlier that Muslims massacred Hindus in India.
Yes, they did.
Right?
Yes.
Could you please
I
tell
don't
me
know
more
who these
about
are.
that?
All right, no worries.
Take care.
Muslims ruled India for
Take care.
thousands of
Okay,
years.
you look after yourself. You're looking good, man. Keep it up at the gym. You look after yourself. There you go, bro.
I want to ask him a question.
Muslims
What's your
ruled-
question?
Yeah, my question is Muslims ruled India for 1,000 years.
Yes.
Okay. Why is Hinduism still thriving there and why are still 1 billion Hindus in India?
Right.
If Muslims were massacring Hindus, why are still so many Hindus in India?
Right. So the reason why the Hindus continue to survive is because the arms of the Muslim murderers got tired. they basically decided that there are too many Muslims to kill, and so, in contradiction to their own Islamic teaching, they declared the Hindus Alim al-Kitab because they couldn't kill them all. And it wasn't just Hindus that they killed. Muslims also killed the Sikhs. Is that true, bro? Did Muslims kill the Sikhs? Just a yes or a no. Shout it. Yes. So don't believe the lies of the Dawa guys. Learn your history.
Why are you referring to him whether it happened or
Because he's a Sikh, bro.
I am from there. I'm from that place.
And you're saying it never happened. You're saying it never happened. Are you saying it never happened? So are you saying? Are you saying it never happened? Are you saying it never happened? Are you saying it never happened? There you go. That's how Muslims are willing to lie.
It didn't happen. You're lying.
Yes. The reality is,
1947, Muslim killed Sikh.
Hindu. Yeah, in the wars of in separation. And guys, again and again and again, we see that Muslims' first instinct is simply to tell a lie. And then when you expose that they've lied, in the next breath, they then try to justify it. And that's what he's about to do. First he denied it happened, now he's trying to justify it. And that's the pattern of Dawah. I'll deny it, and then I'll justify it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Right.
Shout at someone else to be a murderer.
You're lying to these people.
At the time of Mughal,
Good night and God bless. Learn about the Christian faith. Learn about your history. Don't believe the lies of the Dawah guys.
so Christianity into
Did you hear what he just said? We ruled you for 1,000 years, you fool. So the boast is Islamic supremacism. Here's news for you. We conquered the entire Islamic world, you fool.